In this video, you are going to get a front row seat to the ultimate breakdown of how the Springboks beat the All Blacks in the Rugby Championship in Johannesburg at Ellis Park on Saturday. Well, let's be honest, this was a cliffhanger, one for the ages, a match that lived up to all the hype, and we cannot say that we are disappointed by the way it all played out. I'll be very honest with you and say that I'm very relieved myself. Personally, I was expecting a good, comfortable win for the Springboks. My own score personally was 30-16. Turns out that I was somewhat off the mark. We'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. But it was a very, very evenly matched contest. At one stage, it looked like it was headed in one direction, and then it swung in the other. That's the way the pendulum should swing in Test match rugby. So we got ourselves a good old tussle, and I am delighted that in the end we managed to win this one. Let's analyze how the match was played out. We'll look at the key moments throughout the 80 minutes, and we'll also try and summarize at the end and try and figure out what Rassie and indeed Razor might be looking to do next week in Cape Town. So let me start by saying that I'm actually still shaking as I record this video about an hour and a half after it actually finished, and that is what Springboks All Blacks test matches do to me. So let's go with the very beginning. The national anthems were beautiful, the haka was great, the crowd really got into it, and then we saw kickoff. And as I personally expected, New Zealand came at South Africa hard. It was to be expected. Why? Because the last time these two sides played each other was in the Rugby World Cup final, and many folks in New Zealand feel that they were hard done by. The All Blacks no doubt feel the same way. They might feel that they should have won the match. They certainly would feel that they could have won the match. Don't forget those missed penalties in the final at the Stade de France. They might feel hard done by the red card to their captain Sam Cane, and there was certainly an element of wanting redemption and maybe even wanting revenge. Now, the last time that the Springboks won the Rugby World Cup and then played New Zealand next, that was 2019, but there was almost a 2-year wait before we played them in the Rugby Championship, the COVID shortened or affected at least Rugby Championship, where 4 of our matches took place in Australia. You'll remember that. And maybe it was just too long a wait, so maybe we can go back to 2007 when the Boks won the Rugby World Cup, and the first match between the two teams was in New Zealand, and the All Blacks beat us 19-8. But then the week after that, we beat them when with that beautiful last-minute try from Ricky January. And then, of course, in 1995, when we won the Rugby World Cup, beating them in the final. The first match less than a year later, or about a year later, actually, in Christchurch, and they won 15-11. So there were all those little bits and pieces that needed to be factored in when you think of this great rivalry, one of sport's great rivalries, and certainly the greatest one in rugby. So the All Blacks came at us hard and strong as expected, and they dominated the opening exchanges. There's no doubt about that. But the Springbok defense did hold firm, and that looked like a good thing, because sometimes you might think, okay, let's absorb the pressure, we'll take everything that they throw at us, keep it to 0-0, or maybe just go 3-0 down, and then we go again. But that's not exactly what happened. In fact, in the 6th minute, we saw them have a line out, and the ball came down the left-hand side. And I tell you what, Ethan Blackadder, forgive me. You can see which era of rugby I grew up in. Ethan Blackadder had the opportunity to offload to his left-hand side. Caleb Clark was open, it must be noted. But Apalele Fassi, who had drifted offside, came back from behind that line and made what was a try-saving tackle on Blackadder. Unfortunately, given the laws of the game, you're not really allowed to do that, even though I must be honest, I don't really think it's that bad an offense, and I personally would like to see it not being outlawed. But okay, fine, it is what it is, and we can't play the game the way we would like it to be played. We have to play the game as per the laws of the game, whether we like it or not. So okay, fine, yellow card to Apelele Fassi. We're down to 14 men, and that was their opportunity to strike, and strike they did. Because in the next 60 seconds, they would again have a line out. They would maul this time, and Cody Taylor would go over for the first try of the match. And of course, it was converted by Damien McKenzie, 7-0 to New Zealand. Now, I'll be very honest with you, I wasn't too upset by it because, again, as I say, I was expecting them to come hard and fast at us. So in many aspects, being 7-0 down inside the first 5 to 10 minutes of the match was not really that big a surprise, and almost the kind of thing that I was factoring in when I thought about what my final score for the match would be. But now, of course, we are behind and we have to fight back. And we did that. 5 minutes later, we saw a Bok backline move. Nice innovation and creativity. Sasha Feinberg and Ngome Zulu with a beautiful grubber. And it was Kurt Liarense who picked it up, or should we say, failed to pick it up, only just he actually overran it. And who knows what may have come from that. Now, okay, this is very important. Nothing actually came of it, but you could see what they were trying to do. And that's very important because we'll discuss that again at the end of the video. So nice stuff from the box, although nothing coming from it. Not yet anyway. Not long after that, we were on the board. We had a line out of our own. We would maul. Funny enough, just like they did, and Bongi Mbanambi was the man who broke away from them all and crashed over the line for the Springboks to score our first try of the match. And there was some controversy there because the TV replays indicated that Bongi appeared to lose possession of the ball as he was about to dot down. Now, I'm going to say this. There are all kinds of refereeing decisions that have gone against South Africa over the years, and we always cry foul when it happens, and rightly so in my opinion. This time, we saw something go in our favour, which quite frankly, the TMO is there to prevent that kind of thing from being allowed. So, I don't know. I honestly cannot tell you what is going on there, because you have to wonder, why does the TMO exist if not to look at things like that and say, excuse me, Mr. Referee, the player did not actually score the try. He lost the ball before going over the line. It didn't happen. Okay, fine, we benefit from that. But you could say that maybe in the lead up to the New Zealand try, there was some obstruction, certainly hints of it, strong hints of it in the line out from their locks. So maybe a little bit of evening out, perhaps. But if we're talking about justice, we have to wonder what happened with the conversion. Sasha Feinberg and Ngome Zulu lining up the ball. The All Blacks players began charging at him, and that caused him to actually go for the kick. But while all that was going on, the shot clock ran out on him. So he did actually kick it, and it didn't go over anyway, but it didn't count. Very, very weird. All I can say is that the opening 10 or so minutes of this test match, there's one word that comes to mind: chaos. Now, in the 26th minute, Eben Etzebeth got onto the field. It was quite strange seeing him wearing that number 19 jersey. Ruan Nokia had to go off for blood, so Eben was back in and then immediately slotted in. And it was quite nice to see Eben and Peter Steff together in the second row, something we haven't seen for a very, very long time, with Peter Steff having moved to 7 almost a decade ago, wasn't it? So that was something that was nice to see. And the match, slowly but surely, continuing to enthrall and provide intrigue. And nothing could be more intriguing, I feel, than this 20-year-old boy named Sasha Feinberg Ngome Zulu showing the audacity, shall we say, to take a penalty from 61 meters out. I mean, that shows balls. We saw him do it against Wales at Twickenham in the Qatar Airways Cup. It was a similar distance. I think memory serves it was about 57 meters. This one was 61. Okay, yes, at high altitude, you can go for stuff like that, but the audacity to go for it, and not only to go for it, but to do so against the All Blacks, very, very impressive indeed. And sure enough, the young boy slots the penalty. South Africa lead 8-7. Then in the 33rd minute, the Springboks again trying to make something happen. You can see the attacking intent, and I believe, and I try to keep close to my notes, and I wasn't able to see a TV replay, guys. So if I'm mentioning one or two players incorrectly, by all means, I ask for some grace on your part, but feel free to correct me in the comment section down below. Ben Jason Dixon carrying the ball. He popped it up. I think it was to Sia Kolisi, but I do stand corrected. And we had a knock-on. And from that knock-on, the All Blacks were able to counter, sending the ball down the left-hand side, and ultimately Caleb Clark would go over for the try. So that was turnover ball that we conceded to New Zealand, resulting in a try. Very, very upsetting. Damien McKenzie missing the conversion, so now it was 12-8 to New Zealand. And at that point, in and around there, I actually saw a graphic on the TV screen indicating how many handling errors had been committed in the match. And at that stage, South Africa had committed 4, New Zealand 0. and that was quite telling. Sasha would, of course, kick a penalty later in that half to make it 12-11. Interesting, we beat them 12-11 in the Rugby World Cup final last year. This time they were leading 12-11. Sasha attempted a drop goal as well right at the end to try and put us in to the lead at halftime. Unfortunately, it went wide. Nevertheless, I would say that at the break, I wasn't happy that we were behind, but I felt that I had seen enough to make me confident that we would still win this match. Maybe not 30-16 as I had originally hoped and predicted, but I was satisfied sufficiently that we were on top enough, and if we could correct those little mistakes, especially the handling errors, then I believed we would go on and still win this match. Ben Jason Dixon, unfortunately, wasn't really having a great test match, so it turned out to be a bit of a casualty in terms of substitutions, early substitutions anyway. But you know what? Even though he wasn't having a great game, I will say this. Ben Jason Dixon has had a very, very impressive start to Test match rugby, and I, for one, am not worried at all. Everyone is going to have a bad game somewhere along the line. He's only played 3 or 4 Test matches now, so, we have to live and we have to learn, right? And his time will come. Make no mistake. His time will come, and I believe that he will, in time, become a very valuable member of the Springboks squad, if he already is not that. One bad game doesn't make him a bad player. And you know what? As I say, he will learn from this experience. I'm very confident of that. Now, as much as I say that is how I was feeling at half time, well, guys, I think it's fair to say that the second half began in disastrous fashion for South Africa. Superb fashion if you're a Kiwi, but we do try to make these videos from a South African perspective. South Africa coming down the right-hand side, Sasha Feinberg Mngomezulu passing to Damien Dialende, looking for Sia Kolisi, and that obviously part of the pod system that we use in the back line. Well, wouldn't you just know it, as if they had been studying what we do and they knew it was coming. Geordie Barrett was sniffing around and he intercepted the ball and went all the way through and scored a try. Obviously Mackenzie was able to convert. Now it's 19-11 to the All Blacks, and South Africa face a long way back from that position, don't they? The good news is that happened in the 41st minute. 42nd minute came the conversion. So at least, even though we're behind, it's not the end of the world just yet. There's a lot of time still left on the clock. 3 minutes later, 5 of the bomb squad members appear on the field, including a brand new front row. And 2 minutes after that, Sasha Feinberg Mngomezulu slots a penalty, and it's 19-14. And all of a sudden, the scoreline doesn't look that bad anymore. However, having said that, and this was very frustrating, we conceded a penalty 2 minutes after that. Damian McKenzie converts that, and the gap has been restored. We're now looking at a 22-14 game, 8 points to the All Blacks, and that's not really what we want, but okay, fine, this is where we're at. We have to deal with it. We have to deal with adversity, which, as we know well, is something that the Springboks are very, very adept at. And as I say, 22-14, Sasha again kicking a penalty. Now it's 22-17, and you're thinking, okay, this is how this test match is going to go from here. It's going to be a humdinger until the 70th minute, 75th minute, and hopefully the impact of the bomb squad is what is going to ultimately make the difference here. Well, maybe not so much, because what came next was, in my opinion, potentially the hammer blow. And I really thought it was at the time. I remember messaging a friend of mine asking the question, could that be a case of game over? What am I talking about exactly? New Zealand have a line out. Cody Taylor throws deep. Backline move results in it making its way all the way to Caleb Clark, who runs in and finishes for his second try of the match. And all of a sudden, the score is 27-17. And now you are wondering, what on earth are we going to do here? The only thing that was positive for the Springboks at that stage was that there still was a lot of time left on the clock for us to get back into the match. I certainly felt that the handling errors were letting us down. Again, they were, as I say earlier, I saw them on the TV graphic, it had been 4, but there had been at least a couple more since then. Maybe it helped us as well a little bit that Damian McKenzie missed the conversion. So otherwise it could have been 29, but it doesn't really matter. You don't ever really want to be 27-17 down against the All Blacks with the best part of 20 minutes still remaining in the match. As I say, the only positive is that there's enough time still remaining to give us a chance to force our way back into it. And certainly another concern from my point of view, I did think that they opened up our defense maybe just a little bit too easily. But okay, it is what it is. We were making mistakes, and it was one of those matches where it just felt like we weren't necessarily playing badly, but we just couldn't quite get going. It was almost as if there was something that was just holding us back or going against us at every key moment. Handling errors obviously playing a very important role. We needed something to go in our way, in our favor, and wouldn't you just know it, something would go in our favor. The All Blacks had been warned about constant infringements at the breakdown, and sure enough, in the 68th minute, Ofa Tuungafasi was shown a yellow card. Now, Tuungafasi, in my opinion, is one of the top props in the world. You could say that he's one of New Zealand's bomb squad members, certainly in this instance, a powerful scrummager and certainly a player that I admire. And losing him, not the kind of thing that is going to help. And what happens from the resultant penalty? Sasha kicks, we have our line out, we maul, there's a few pick and goes, and eventually Kwagga Smith is the man who crosses the try line for us. Sasha converts, and 27-17 is suddenly 27-24, and we still have 11 minutes left in this match at Ellis Park. Now, I just want to stop there, because there are all kinds of little bits and pieces where you see history repeating itself, often in sport. We see patterns, and as much as I was confident that we would still go on and win, a part of me was wondering, because 27-24 is the exact scoreline that New Zealand beat South Africa by in 1992 when the Boks returned to international rugby from isolation. And this match was being broadcast on SuperSport as well as SABC. It was marketed as being part of the 30-year anniversary and celebration of South Africa becoming a democratic country. And there's enough of a connection there to make me unfortunately think, you know what, it was 27-24 in 92 when we returned. Might it be 27-24 again in 2024 when we're celebrating 30 years of democracy? Luckily, history did not repeat itself in this fashion on this occasion. And that is because this world champion team of ours writes its own history. And they would repeat their own kind of history in the 75th minute. Again, we have a line out. We maul from the line out, pick and go, pick and go, pick and go, and Grant Williams is the man of the hour, crashing over the try line, and it's 29-27 to South Africa. Sasha kicks the conversion with 31-27 ahead with less than 5 minutes on the clock. And a special mention to Sasha, when we were awarded the penalty, we were somewhere around the halfway line, maybe the 10-meter line, and Sasha was kicking full touch, and it was the perfect kick, giving us a 5-meter try line from which we could attack. And that starlet of ours is someone who is going to go places, I have no doubt. I've been singing his praises, and for those of you who don't know, I actually met him when he was about 5 years old. His dad and I used to be colleagues working in radio in Cape Town. So a part of me almost feels like a bit of an uncle, even though I'm not really, but it feels like a proud uncle, if you know what I mean. I'm really, really happy to see Sasha doing so well. 3 minutes later, Malcolm Marx rips the ball from Scott Barrett, and we have a penalty that results from that. Sasha can make it a 7-point game, meaning they have to score a try and they have to convert it just to draw against us. So that would mean we can't lose the test anymore, and you wouldn't believe it. our starlet actually misses a goal kick for a change, and it's still 31-27, and now the hands are shaking, the stomach isn't feeling too good, and there are lots and lots of nerves. But I want to tell you what happens next. Damian McKenzie, from the restart, it goes wide onto their left-hand side. Caleb Clark versus Jesse Creel, who grabs it out of the air in spectacular fashion. I believe that moment was key, not in us winning the match, but in making sure that we would not lose possession, which could have been a really bad thing at that moment. Jesse Creel, I mean, this guy has just become a machine. I've said this before in one of my previous videos. Before the Rugby World Cup last year, a lot of people might have looked at Jesse and asked the question, why is this guy in our squad? Well, right now, he is the best 13 in the world. And because of Kurtley Arendse having to leave the field for what appeared to be concussion, well, Jesse just moved to 14, and he was brilliant on the right wing as well. What a player this man has become. And it's very, very satisfying to see that. And sure enough, not long after that, the final whistle blows and South Africa win 31-27. A very, very satisfying result for the Springboks. Was it perfect? Certainly not. Is there a lot for us to improve on going into next week? You bet you there is. Was it too close for comfort? Absolutely it was. Could New Zealand feel that they let this one slip? Well, Damian McKenzie did miss a couple of kicks, and maybe if that had not happened, the All Blacks might have been in business. But I'll tell you what, this world champion team of ours shows great tenacity, and they just simply do not know when they are beaten. And there's something I want to say about that, because how many times over the years have we seen South Africa lead New Zealand going into the last 10 or so minutes, and then the All Blacks score 2 tries at the end to beat us? Readily, I think of Durban in the 2007 Tri-Nations. I can think of Dunedin in the 2005 Tri-Nations before that. Another one that comes to mind is 2010 at Soccer City, also a Tri-Nations fixture. And how about Pretoria, Loftus in 2018 when we were leading against them by 12 points and then they ended up scoring twice near the end to beat us. But this time, the shoe was on the other foot, and it feels very, very satisfying. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. This New Zealand side is not the invincible All Black side that we saw during the Graham Henry and Steve Hansen eras. That doesn't mean that they are suddenly weak. That doesn't mean that we should underestimate them. That doesn't mean that we arrive at the test match expecting to beat them or to run over them. But we are the world champions. They are not that same side they used to be, and we should start these matches against them, especially on home soil, as the favorites. And I'm glad that we won today, because what it made me think of was how many times we've been playing against teams like, say, Wales, and we would score at the end to win after trailing with 10 or so minutes to go. But this time we did it against the All Blacks, and it was a very, very satisfying feeling. I sense that you can see the satisfaction in my face as well as hear it in my voice. I am very, very pleased that we were able to pull this off. Let's talk about some of the players. I thought that the front row, as well as the bomb squad front row, did very, very well. Ruan Nokia, I thought, had a very, very good game. Eben obviously did not disappoint when he came on. Peter Steph-Tutoy, he was the man of the match. He's always the man of the match, isn't he? It feels as if before the match begins, Peter Steph-Tutoy is the man of the match. Captain Fantastic Siya Kolisi, I thought, had a great game. Jasper Visser, you know what? I was one of those who wasn't very sure about him at one stage, but he just keeps getting better and better. That man is as strong as an ox, and it's actually a pleasure to watch his ball carries, among other things. In the back line, Kobus had a good game. Grant Williams obviously made an impact with the winning try. I thought Sasha had a great game, possibly a candidate for player of the match. Damian did well. Jesse Creel obviously had a very, very good game. I was happy with what we saw on the wings. A little bit of a concern over Kurtley Arendse now going into Cape Town. He may or may not be able to play in that match. It looks like it could be concussion, and if that's the case, then obviously he's ruled out, so we would have to make a change there. Ches and Colby had a great game. Apelele Fassi, apart from the yellow card, I thought he also did well. So in terms of changes for the Cape Town test match, I suspect expect that what will happen is Eben will come back into the side, Peter Steff will move to 7, and Ben Jason Dixon will miss out. Whether he moves to the replacements bench or Marco van Staden comes in for him is something that remains to be seen. There was something else that I saw which I was very pleased about. Sasha, given his inexperience, there may have been a temptation from Rassie to actually take Sasha off and bring Handré Pollard on going into those last 20 minutes. Obviously, Pollard so experienced with his 2 Rugby World Cup victories and just the man for such an occasion, actually. But Rassie showed great faith in Sasha. And now, can you just imagine how Sasha's confidence has skyrocketed? Because now, yes, he's still inexperienced, and yes, he's still young, and yes, he is still going to make mistakes. But now he has a test match against the All Blacks under his belt, but also a test match against the All Blacks in which he influenced much of the positive play. He scored so many points in this match, which was great to see. We scored 31. Take our 3 tries out of it, that's 16 points. Sasha scored 16 points against the All Blacks today. That's very, very good. That penalty kick that I spoke about, the tactical kicking that led to the winning try, that was beautiful. So all of that is now under his belt. He didn't have to come off to make way for someone else. He played the full 80 minutes, and I think that's just great. And now I know this is the part where you guys are going to try and have a go at me because I said 30-16 before the match began, and the final score obviously didn't reflect that kind of dominance at all. But I'm going to say this. If we take some of those handling errors out of the equation, I feel like we left 5 points on the field minimum because of handling errors. Give us those 5 points, suddenly we have 36. Absolutely a handling error led directly to one of their tries. Take 5 points, it wasn't converted by the way, so take 5 points away from them and they have 22. If the score had been 36-22, I would have been pretty much on the money with my 30-16 score. I said box by 14. That would have been box by 14. Obviously, it was box by 4. So, yes, I didn't get the score right, and you can have a go at me all you like. But if you look at the patterns of play and you say, well, you know what? If we had been better in the areas where we should have been better, it could well have been a 14-point game. By the way, I don't think it's going to be a 14-point game next week in Cape Town. I think it's going to be just as close as what we saw at Ellis Park. I think that the Cape Town fixture tends to favour the All Blacks, unfortunately, but it is what it is. That said, there is one last thought that I want to leave with you guys here, and that is this. I saw a lot of stuff on X or Twitter, if you still call it that, some messages that I got from my friends as well, showing concern about the flair and the creativity and the attacking nature of the way the Springboks were playing. The general feeling, and I think you can relate to this if you're a Springbok supporter, we want to see it being kept tight in the forwards. We want to see ourselves dominating up front, the lineouts, the mauls, the rucks, the scrums, the breakdowns. We want to see that. And then when we've built up a little bit of a lead, then we go wide into the back line. And this team kind of goes wide at will. Now, it is exciting to see, but it's also the kind of thing I think that gives Springbok fans trepidation. I'm going to say this. We need to trust the process, and we need to have faith in that process. Rassie Erasmus, I think he's built up a tremendous amount of credit when it comes to goodwill. We can trust him. He's helped us win 2 Rugby World Cups, and we just need to be patient, okay? He brought Tony Brown in to make a difference. And we can see that Tony Brown is already making a difference. And I'm thinking back now to 2018, when Rassie returned. He brought Jock Ninaber with him as the defense coach at the time. And what did Jock do? He worked on that defense, one match at a time. And I clearly remember Jock telling the media that his system takes about 8 matches for the players to get used to it. And that's when it clicks in. And as it turns out, our 7th match under the Rassie and Jock regime, or Rasnaber as it was nicknamed. That 7th match was against the All Blacks in Wellington, and we won 36-34. Now, you might say 36-34 doesn't indicate that the defence had a great game, but I'm just putting it out there. And by the same token, Tony Brown has not told us how many games it'll take for the attack to click, but you can see it. You can feel it. You're certainly experiencing it, maybe from a negative perspective. Let's just be patient. Let's trust the process. And I'm very confident it's going to come. It's going to click. Maybe it clicks next week against the All Blacks. Wouldn't 57-0 be nice? I hope I'm alive the day that we murder them 57-0. I'll be very, very happy. But you know what? I'll take a big win over Scotland or England or Wales or any of those in the meantime, as long as we just continue beating the All Blacks. It's the third time in a row. The last time we did that was 2009 when we won the Tri-Nation. So we are in pole position now to win the Rugby Championship with one more against the All Blacks and 2 against Argentina, 1 away, and then the last one is at home. So we're looking forward to that as well. So all in all, a very satisfying feeling, if not lots of nerves and anxiety along the way to get there. But I'd like to know from you guys, what do you think? Do you agree with what I've had to say here? Do you have alternative thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below what your assessment of this test match was, this 31-27 victory by the Springboks over the All Blacks. And since you're here and still watching, that tells me that you've enjoyed this video, which brings warm feelings to my heart, and I'd like to ask you if you would be willing to support me. I'd like to make more videos like this. I would like to continue doing previews, reviews, updates, and the like from the Springbok camp. And if you are enjoying this and would like to support me, you can hit the like button down below, or as one of my other viewers mentioned, don't hit the like button, croc roll the like button. I like that. So you can croc roll the like button. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Both of those things will help me a lot. It'll help the YouTube algorithm know which videos to recommend, and that'll help grow the channel, more viewers, more subscribers, all those bits and pieces. And then if you are feeling financially generous, you can also help me. Just down below there, there's another button. It has a heart in it. If you can't see it, there's a button with 3 dots, and if you click on that, you will see it. It has a heart, and inside the heart is a $sign, and that is the Super Thanks button. Super Thanks allows you to put up a highlighted comment in the comment section down below, and on top of that, I promise that I will not like that, but I will heart that comment. I will also reply. You have a guaranteed reply if you do that, and in addition to that, it'll also ask you to make a small donation, and as I have found out, the donations start at $1. That's US dollars, not some dollars. I know that the rand sucks these days, but by my estimation, that looks like it's somewhere around 17 Rand, which I don't think that's too bad, and I'd be very, very grateful if you would be willing to help me out on that front. And with all of that being said, thank you very much for your support, thank you very much for your time, and I will see you in the next video.